Undersea Mystery Club, The Puzzling Paintings. Book 8. By Courtney Carbone. Illustrated by Melanie Demmer. Epic Originals. For my daring adventurers, Shayla and Colette. Stay curious. CBC. 4. At lunch, Violet and Wally chatted more about the graffiti mystery. After filling up their trays, they went to sit at their usual table in the corner of the cafeteria. But they quickly saw that someone was already there, sitting with his tail fin up on a seat, was Gil Sharkfin. Gil was the biggest troublemaker in school. He didn't usually eat in the cafeteria because he almost always had to have lunch in the principal's office. But it was only the first day of school, so he hadn't gotten into too much trouble yet. Or so they thought. "What's up?" Violet asked, pointing to Gil's muddy tail on her seat. "Oh, sorry," Gil said, wiping off the seat. "I'm here because I have a favor to ask." "You can't eat all of my seagrass cookies," Wally interrupted, moving his lunch tray away. It wouldn't have been the first time Gil had asked for that favor. Gil shook his head. No, he replied. "This is nothing like that." "Well, what is it?" asked Violet. She knew better than to agree to one of Gil's crazy schemes before she had heard the whole story. "It's like this," he said, lowering his voice. "Someone painted the school building with graffiti last night, and everyone thinks it was me, but it wasn't. I was at the library last night." Violet and Wally looked at each other and burst out laughing. "You were at the library?" Violet asked. "Why do I have trouble believing that?" Gil sighed. "Okay, I was outside the library practicing new sandboard tricks. But that's not the point. Can you help me?" Wally frowned. He had been wary of Gil ever since Gil had tricked him into eating a hot pepper. Violet thought about it. It would be easy to believe that Gil was behind the graffiti, but she couldn't know for sure without investigating. "Gil, you're in luck," she said at last. "Wally and I already decided to figure out who was responsible for the graffiti. If you're really innocent, I guess we'll be helping you, too." "You will?" Gil asked. "We will?" Wally repeated. "Ring," sounded the lunch bell. Gil whooped excitedly. "Thank you," he said as he quickly swam off to class. "You won't regret it." Wally sighed. "I already regret it," he whispered to Violet. 5. The rest of the afternoon was uneventful. Violet and Wally had math, followed by language arts. They met their new teachers and got their seating assignments. All the while, Violet stared at the clock. Finally, at 2:45 p.m., the final bell rang loud and clear. It was the end of the first day of school. Violet couldn't wait to see the graffiti up close. She and Wally grabbed their backpacks and raced out the door. But when they got outside, they saw that the graffiti area was blocked off, with yellow police tape and orange cones. "Looks like we're not going to be able to get too close," Wally said. Violet had an idea. She took an instant camera out of her bag. She used the lens to zoom in and took lots of pictures of the crime scene. When she was done, she wrote, "Crime scene, school," in her notebook and tucked the photos into her backpack. Violet swam back a little. She looked at the blob. She looked at the area around the blob. She even looked at the area around the blob. That's when she noticed something she hadn't seen before. There was a small white circle near the bottom of the blob.
Violet said.
That's interesting.
Wally squinted at the graffiti too.
He said, puzzled.
That circle reminds me of something, but I'm not sure what.
Me too, Violet replied. She made a note of the circle in her notebook.
What else?
She asked Wally. She knew that looking carefully at the scene of a crime was a good way to find clues.
Well, it doesn't look like regular paint,
Wally said.
Not like the kind we use in art class, I mean.
Good point, Violet exclaimed. She added that to her notebook too.
But what else could it be?
Wally asked. Violet wasn't sure.
I think we should go to the clubhouse to brainstorm ideas,
she said.
Definitely,
Wally agreed. 6. The best friend's secret clubhouse was hidden away in a coral reef just outside of Aquamarina. They decided to take a shortcut through the city to save time. But when they passed City Hall, Violet noticed yellow tape and orange cones outside. They swam closer and saw another black blob, just like the one on the school. Mayor Vespera was outside talking to the head of the police, Chief Wilson. When she saw Violet and Wally, she waved for them to come over.
There's graffiti on City Hall, too?
Violet asked. I'm afraid so, her mother said. Looks like it's a bigger problem than we thought.
Wow,
Wally said.
What if the whole city ends up as one giant blob? You'd have to change its name to Blobamarina.
Mayor Vespera laughed. I don't think we need to worry about that quite yet, she said. But each new crime scene does give us more clues about the culprit.
What clues did you find this time?
Violet asked, taking out her notebook. Well, there are dark spots on the ground next to the painting, said the mayor. So it's possible that whoever is doing this is leaving a trail of black paint.
Violet
said.
I'll add that to my list of clues.
Violet wrote trail of black paint in her notebook. Then she took out her camera and snapped some more photos.
Mom, we're going to the clubhouse, okay?
She asked.
We want to brainstorm.
Sure, her mom replied. I'll call Wally's family and let them know. Just be home by dinner time. I want to hear all about your first day of school.
You got it,
Violet said, giving her a hug. Mayor Vespera went back to talking to Chief Wilson, and Violet and Wally swam off toward the clubhouse. But it turned out there was lots more to investigate. Violet and Wally saw black graffiti, yellow tape, and orange cones all over the city. They passed 3 more buildings that had been marked with graffiti. At each one, Violet snapped pictures and added the location to her list of crime scenes. Outside the library, Violet and Wally saw Gil doing tricks on a sandboard, right below a sign that read, "No sandboarding."
Hey,
he said.
How's the detecting going? Any luck so far? We've been gathering clues,
Violet said,
and we're heading to our club.
She was interrupted by the library door swinging open. Mr. Hans, the librarian, swam down the stairs.
Gilliam?
You come with me this instant,
he bellowed.
Whoa! Hey! I didn't do anything wrong,
Gil said, trying to block the no sandboarding sign.
You know exactly what you did,
Mr. Hans replied. Gil swam back, revealing black tracks on the ground where his sandboard wheels had been.
Your tracks look just like the graffiti paint,
Mr. Hans told Gil.
I didn't do it,
Gil exclaimed.
It's from the sandboarding park. They just put down new pavement. Some of it got on my board. Well, the police are here,
Mr. Hans said.
You can tell them your story down at the station. The police?
Gil asked. He fidgeted with his sandboard. Violet knew better than to jump to conclusions before she had all the facts. But she had to admit, it wasn't looking good for Gil. He had been in trouble for pranks before, but he'd never done anything that had landed him in the police station. Gil gulped as 2 dolphin police officers swam up.
Chief Wilson wants to talk to you,
one of them said.
Violet, I didn't do it. You have to believe me,
Gil called out as they took him away. What is graffiti? When Principal Martin sees the black blob of paint on the school's entrance, he calls it graffiti. People use that word to describe a drawing that's made in a public space, usually on a wall, without permission. Graffiti can harm businesses and be very hard to clean off. Graffiti has an interesting history as a form of art, though. Some artists, like Jean-Michel Basquiat and Keith Haring, got their start painting graffiti, and then they went on to create beautiful murals and artwork all over the world. Today, some of their art is worth millions of dollars. Is Gil telling the truth? Find out in Book 9. Available now. Epic Originals.